Hello, everyone, and welcome to Truro Town Council. Before we begin our agenda for December 2nd, I, Kathy J. Henton, Mayor of the Town of Truro, acknowledge that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq people. We acknowledge the peace and friendship treaties and recognize we are all treaty people. We recognize African Nova Scotians are a distinct people whose histories, legacies, and contributions have enriched the lives and the part of Mi'kmaq, known as Nova Scotia, for over 400 years. Thank you. We'll now proceed to our agenda. This is a public council meeting for the town of Truro for Monday, December 2nd, 2024. The first item is the approval of the agenda. Mr. Dolter, are there any changes, omissions, deletions to the agenda today?
Madam Mayor, I have one item to add, and that would be proposed as item 10G, and that's a request for the early allocation of the final quarter payment for the Rath Sink Center.
Thank you very much. So with the addition of that number G, can I have a motion, please, to move the agenda? Councillor Graham?
I just wanted to ask about the appointment of the deputy mayor. That's selection or voting of the, it's not an appointment, it's a vote that we take.
It is a vote, correct.
So maybe we should amend that to reflect that it's a vote, not an appointment.
Okay, if you want to make that motion to move that with the...
Is it a motion required to make that
Or just,
change?
we can make a change, I would say, just the wording. You can change that.
Yeah.
So with the wording of the change and the addition about the rec, can I call for a motion, please, to approve the agenda for today? Moved by Councillor Fleming, seconded by Councillor McGrath. All in favor, please say aye. 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 Contrary minded? Motion is approved. Thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, I'm just going to, that one item there, I am going to list it as election of the deputy mayor.
Yes.
I think that that wording makes sense for the
Okay.
minutes.
Election of the deputy. Okay. All right. Fine. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from November 7th, 2024. The chair would ask for a motion to approve the minutes. Do I have a mover, please? Councillor Fleming, seconder. Councillor McGrath. Is there any discussion on the minutes of November the 7th? Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had a couple of small corrections that I provided in email. As long as those are approved or applied, then I'm fine with the approval of the minutes.
Okay. Mr. Dolter, are you aware of that?
Yes, we are. Yep, they're being corrected.
So with the corrections that have been made, mover and seconder, and questions have been asked, I'd ask for the vote. All in favor of approving? Please. Thank you. Contrary minded? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. We now move on to motions and notions of motions, Mr. Dolter.
None today, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Our next on the agenda is old business, or no, excuse me, petitions, delegations, and correspondence.
No correspondence for this meeting.
Thank you. Number 5, old business. Do we have any old business today, Mr. Dolter?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Our in-camera summary, item number 6.
Yeah, thank you. So November, there were no in-camera meetings with council, and there were no items for today.
Okay. Thank you very much. Item 7, we're moving on to our committee reports. After each report, council may ask questions. After all reports are presented, the chair will ask for a motion. Our first report is from you, Mr. Dolter, our CAO report, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The first item is just to talk a little bit about the council orientation that we did on the 14th of November. So staff met with council to continue the orientation process for the new council and past council members or returning council members. This training gave a local context to some of the information provided to council during the provincial orientation conducted from the 3rd to the 4th of November in Halifax. So council received briefings from most of town directors on their departmental operations, the CAO on the council's responsibility and roles, and the town solicitor on legal considerations. Public Works and Corporate Services will be briefed at a future meeting, and in fact, we may include those as part of the committee of the whole that's scheduled for the 18th. Debris pile meeting on November 15th. Since Hurricane Fiona, the town's faced an ongoing issue of how to deal with the significant debris pile in the public works area off Yonge Street. The tremendous volume of debris is unsightly and could present longer-term issues as the pile degrades. Staff were approached by a company that has done work for other municipal units in the province using a patented burn process to safely deal with the debris with minimal byproduct remaining that could easily be used in the local area. Staff will be following up with the municipalities that have used their services, as well as looking at other alternatives in order to make a recommendation to council for further consideration. So, Madam Mayor, I mean, it is a major issue right now with the size of the debris pile, and in fact, that's why we've been restricting use of that area there as the pile continues to grow, and we want to be able to control that. So again, there'll be future discussions on that coming forward to council. Number 2, Construction Battalion with the African Nova Scotia Strategy Committee discussions. The African Nova Scotia Strategy Committee met to discuss the recognition project for the Number 2 Construction Battalion. The town applied for and was successful in accessing $50,000 in funding for a monument and event for the further recognition of the unit. The committee discussed the best options for the timing of the event, which will be further discussed at future meetings. Since that meeting, staff has also found potential opportunities to access legacy funding that could provide longer-term benefits to the NS community within Truro. So again, that we'll continue to report on that as things progress. Provincial EMO exercise on the 22nd November. The Regional Emergency Operations Center staff met on November 22nd to participate in a provincial emergency preparedness exercise to practice its planning process and provide familiarization for new staff members. The exercise was used to provide discussion points and education to all members of the EOC and develop a better ability to communicate and coordinate during a real event. Further requirements for training were also identified during the exercise. Mayor Hinton and the mayors of Stewiacke and the County of Colchester also attended as observers. Some of the strategic initiatives and communications items we'll go on to. So the Community Energy and Emissions Plan on November 13th, staff from Quest Canada hosted an implementation workshop with staff, council, and committee members to begin working on implementing a community energy and emissions plan. This is part of the town's work in the Pan-Atlantic Net Zero Communities Accelerator Program. Truro Farmers Market Recovery Initiative. Staff are working with the Recovery Initiative to investigate a potential energy refit for the Truro's Farmers Market, building on 15 Yonge Street. Recover will work with the town to guide us through a process of identifying, optimizing, and investigating a deep retrofit for this building. The potential project would enhance energy efficiency while preserving the building's historic charm, making it a model of sustainable renovation. So again, there's further discussion on that, Madam Mayor, and we'll see where that goes and bring that back to council. Urban deer management. The controlled urban deer hunt got underway the first week of November and is expected to run until mid-December. Millbrook's program also got underway in early November and is currently running on the south end of town and in selected locations outside of Truro. This year's program includes partnership with Feed Nova Scotia, Dalhousie University, Millbrook First Nation, and Department of Natural Resources and Renewables. As of the 26th of November, 28 deer had been harvested through the Truro and Millbrook hunters. Equity and anti-racism strategy. Under the Nova Scotia Dismantling Racism and Hate Act, municipalities and villages across Nova Scotia are required to develop an equity and anti-racism strategy by the 1st of April 2025. Partners at the County of Colchester, Village of Bible Hill, and Town of Stewiacke have agreed to a regional approach to developing this strategy. An RFP was issued on October 9th to hire a consultant to help facilitate this report. Proposals are currently being evaluated for a recommendation to council. An EDI coordinator was also hired in November to oversee the development of the equity anti-racism strategy and an updated accessibility plan. Nikki Gillis assumed her role on November 18th. So this is a shared position between ourselves and the Village of Bible Hill. Public transportation, an RFP was issued in October to hire a consultant to assist the town and county in developing a regional public transportation feasibility plan. The RFP closed in early November and is currently being evaluated. Truro Elementary School student vote program. Staff worked with Mayor Hinton and Councillor Talbot to present a Talbot to present to grade 4 students at Truro Elementary. The presentations focus on the role of town council and municipal government at the grade 4 level. Students had recently learned about the municipal election process through the student vote program, and I understand they held their own little mini election, so I don't think we heard the results of that. But anyways, those are the major activities that were ongoing. So from a communications perspective, we've been doing a lot of work on capital works updates, which have been well received by the public. The Truro Santa Claus Parade, we're currently reporting on the Willow Street concrete curb project that's underway. And we also did a series on understanding local government, which again was quite well received, as people did appreciate knowing the difference between federal, provincial, and municipal government responsibilities. And then some of the social media trending is provided as well for council's information, as well as the grants that we have applied for and been successful in receiving. And again, there was a number of grants that came up recently to deal with sustainability and infrastructure, which staff are currently evaluating and making applications where applicable. That is my report, Madam Mayor. Respectfully submitted.
Thank you very much. Very detailed report and a lot of very positive things in there. I do formally want to welcome Nikki Gillis as the EDIA coordinator, and I hope she enjoys her time with us. I also want to thank Allison Grant for setting up the visit to Truro Elementary School with the grade 4s. Councillor Talbot and I really enjoyed ourselves. I think we made a lot of new friends there. They were absolutely adorable with their little questions, and I hope that we get to go up again and see them, and I have given them an invitation. Maybe they'd like to come down here to do that. One question for you, Mr. Dolter. The deadline for grants, for people applying for grants through us?
31 January is the deadline. So again, we do typically send out reminders from those that we have annually received grants from. So again, that will be done as well. And again, we remind anybody considering putting in a grant to check the policy on our website to fill out an application and send that in as soon as possible.
Excellent. Okay, so we've heard your lovely report, very detailed, very positive, lots of good things there. So now we're going to open it up to questions for Mr. Dolter, and I see first up in the queue is Councillor Graham.
I'm just wondering about the work that the company hired will be doing regarding the debris pile. Under which department will that task be assigned, and will it be in consultation with our fire chief?
Yes, it would be. Again, we're at very early days right now, so it would be a combination of Public Works and Parks Recreation. We're really kind of snickering as nobody really wants to take responsibility for the debris pile, but it's adjacent to Victoria Park, so it's kind of a shared responsibility and does involve trees and tree debris, which the foreman or the supervisor for that under Parks Recreation is doing some of the monitoring as well. The fire chief will be involved depending on the solution that we come up with. We're also looking at other alternatives which would not necessarily involve any combustible material. So again, those are things that we're looking at and we're pricing, and we'll come back to council for discussion on that.
Councillor Talbot.
Can't hear you. Got to be red. Oh, you're on, Ian.
Yeah. That's green.
He's not on. He's not on. Ian's on.
Yeah.
Red is on. Now Bill Thomas is on.
Now we're all on.
And I'm on.
Okay.
There you go. We're all on. Nice. I'll turn mine off.
I'm turning you off now. There we go. Okay.
So
You're on, Wayne.
Okay, so it was a joint
Yeah, yes, it was, yeah. So it was a joint committee that sat and selected the individual.
Yep.
So again, that was, both the village and, town participated.
And the second one would be the water pooling on the ball field. I'm not trying to catch you on a guard, Mike, because I did call and had a few questions, but the community's getting very, very concerned. That pond is quite deep. The concerns were first brought to our attention back in the early summer. Now with the weather changing, there's some fear that a thin layer of ice might make that even more dangerous than it is today. So I understand there's some issues in terms of access to the field because it's under the control of the contractors, but I'm hard pressed to answer the questions I'm getting from the community is when will that be done? And now they're talking in terms of no signage, no fence. So I need to have some information to share back.
Yeah, and, I can appreciate that. So, I think I discussed with you, earlier, Council, I had a call last week from one of the residents. We've been talking about this for some time. The permanent solution is still to fill the pond in. That's probably not likely to happen before, the cold weather hits and we have full access to the field. So as of this week, signage will be going up, which will basically, indicating the danger of the deeper water. We also are looking at, or we are sourcing some temporary fencing material that will go around at least the portion of the pond that faces with the West Prince. We likely will try to circle the entire pond if that's possible. So it either will be some sort of snow fence or a different style of fence that can go up temporarily, and we'll again in the spring when we're ready to start filling it in, it'll be coming down. So that's the quick solution that we have for now. As soon as, and again, we think because it doesn't involve large vehicles interrupting the contractor doing the final work there, we can get access and there shouldn't be much of an issue.
Councillor McGrath?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Dolter, we mentioned the debris up in the top of the park. What about debris trail side in the lower park? I understand that there's still some debris piles there. Staff maybe have had some trouble getting to it. I've also been approached by some folks who would happily volunteer to hand carry some of that debris out of there. Are we able to enlist some volunteers to assist with that effort?
No, that would not be our favorite solution. We don't usually use volunteers for that type of work. Our staff are looking at those piles now, and in fact, I think they are scheduled to be removed, depending on the timing. But again, they're aware of the piles, and they were piled there by our staff, so they just have to come back to them and be able to remove them. I don't know, Ms. Sims, if you have anything other than that?
Anything further, Councillor?
Several. Once we get an answer from Mrs. Sims.
There we go. Yeah, so what our plan is to try to have about 15 feet on either side of the trails. And we are, that's ongoing, it's cleaning. As you are aware, they're still cleaning up from the hurricane in early 2000. So there is a lot of debris throughout the park. But they have been working hard, and that is just ongoing and continuing.
So basically anything that's trail side now, right beside the trail, the plan is to remove that. So again, they're trying to set a buffer where it'll be clean, and then further back from there, it's the debris that's in the trees is just going to be left where it is, right, in order to maintain the natural habitat.
Okay, and we don't have any concerns about the added fuel for forest fire with all of that extra debris in there?
The stuff that's actually in the woods, the forest supervisor, he has assured us through forest management best practices that's, again, that's a very acceptable practice, and he doesn't see any major concern. And it does maintain the natural environment, provides habitat for animals. So he says, no, that's the way it should be.
Okay, thank you. And then we talked last month that there was supposed to be a tender awarded for the pigeon issue at the library. Has that tender gone out?
It has gone out. It has been been finalized. We're just having some discussion with the province on a couple issues, and once that's taken care of, we'll be able to get underway.
Okay, thank you. And then last month also, we discussed a list of bylaw updates that senior staff are going to be looking at within their departments. Do we have that list of bylaws that needs to be updated yet?
Not at this point. We're still working on them.
Okay. Question regarding the funding program overview. Sorry, the numbers appear to be missing from the line for the stadium ice plant. Do we have those numbers somewhere, or is that something that's still work in progress?
Sorry? You're talking to grants?
Yeah, in the funding program overview, if I show you here, in pending, we had the Green Municipal Fund, the stadium ice plant. There are no numbers here for stadium ice plant.
I believe that's something that the Honeywell is actually applying for on our behalf. So again, I don't have that number now.
Okay, thank you. And then the last thing, the Willow Street curb project. So now this is probably on me, I guess, when staff have been providing updates on this one. I have not seen anything on that one. Do we have like a brief overview of what the Willow Street curb project entails?
Okay, so that's yeah, we can provide that. That's a project to provide curb and sidewalk going up Willow Street between. That's. I'm looking at Mr. McKinnon just to give the actual which roads it's between. Go ahead, Andrew. Just 1 sec now.
Yes, it's on Willow Street. The plan, what we had budgeted for, and we discussed back at budget time, was sidewalk on the west side of Willow and curb on the east side of Willow in preparation for active transportation on the east side. From Glenwood all the ways to Blakeney, the prices came in too high. We decided to then tender only from Glenwood to Actually, what we did, we split it in half, and now we're only going halfway. So it's starting at Glenwood and going basically just past the Colchester Community Funeral Home. So the project was awarded to Dexter Construction. They committed to doing the curb on the east side this fall, and then next summer they will complete it by doing the sidewalk and curb on the west side. And I think they have till the middle or end of July to complete the contract.
Yeah. So the intent would be to bring back into the capital budget for the remainder of the work. Again, the reason it wasn't fully tendered is just, or fully tendered as part of this project is just because of pricing.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll now move on to Councillor Thomas, followed by Councillor Fleming.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have 2 or 3 items. In regards to the burn pile, the debris pile that's up at the top of Yonge Street, et cetera, is that to be burnt on site, or is it to be moved off site to be burnt, that material?
If we went with the option that this company provided, we would be burnt on site. Okay. And again, if we were to, prior to selecting that option, we'd brief council on it so they understood exactly how it was going to be done.
Right.
Again, we're very preliminary at this point, and we are looking at other options to, other than burning, to do this. This was an unsolicited approach, and it looked favorable, but again, we do need to talk to the units that have actually worked with this company just to get what the real results were from their perspective and to make sure, just to verify everything.
I absolutely agree with you. I think the details on this are important. In regards to the EMO, I was just wondering, is the town in a position of preparedness when it comes to this? And are there areas that we need to address? Did anything come to mind while you were at the conference?
The only things that really stood out is the fact that just, again, we haven't had too many issues of late where we've had to stand the EOC up, and as a result, we have some new people there, so we're just working on the communications on that side. We're just working through, just some of the things that, to communicate with the province and just identifying some of the things that we need to know. So we're going to work through some of that as a group to make sure we've got those things covered. But I think we're in a good position. Certainly, we've got a good relationship with the province. Province has made a great commitment to supporting us, and with the county and Stewiacke involved, again, we've got a good resource base to rely upon. So, And we have solid planning as well too, so we have a plan almost for every eventuality. And again, I think we got a lot of smart people around the table, so I think it works, yeah, I don't think there's any issues.
I just want to follow up on that. It was the first time, it was an excellent exercise, wasn't it, Mr. Dolter? And it was the first time the three mayors had ever been involved in that. I guess my question, just so people will understand, in case of an emergency for the setup for people to go for a comfort center, that has been identified now as the Douglas Street Rec Center, correct?
Yes, for us it has, and that again, that is correct. As long as it's available from a standpoint, there isn't something that's happened that makes it not the right site. But we do have a backup for that, which would be probably the rec. But that's something that the EOC coordinator would take care of. But yes, Douglas Street would be the main center as a comfort center should we require.
Will there be a designated phone number set up for that site?
Yes, once we go to the point of standing it up, we will identify the full communication requirements for that and how people to get a hold of us there.
Excellent. Okay, back to you, Councillor.
Yes, thank you. The last comment is it's my understanding, Ms. Sims, that there's just coarse material that's off the trail when you go through the park, and that the finer material has been removed, because that's really the point of ignition would be that finer material when it dries out. Is that correct? Is that from the wording in your report? I understand that that's so.
Yes, that's correct. And it's going to take us a while to get it all cleaned up. But our arborist has a solid plan, and he's working on that.
Right, so it's the coarser material that's being left, and of course that will degrade over time. There's not nearly the threat of a fuel for wildfire.
Correct.
But I'm just wondering, and we discussed this before, and there's, it's a question of resources too, but the top of Pleasant Street, for instance, at the Water Tower Park, there's a lot of blowdown in that park there, that little small park, a lot of blowdown, but there's houses in that vicinity, and 2 or 3 people have mentioned it to me, that they're concerned about that, there is finer material there. There's a lot of crisscrossing of trees and kids are in there. And so what's the perspective of getting something done in those sort of areas in the town, where the town owns the land, where there's been a lot of blowdown, and yet it's hard to get to that because of a lot of our attention has rightly gone to Victoria Park, but there are some other areas perhaps that need at least a look at to see if they pose a threat.
Yeah, well, the tree urban forest supervisor, he would take a look at it and identify that as for future work, again, and how that, and again, he'd assess it for the level of urgency. I mean, it may be in a bad condition that it takes priority over something else. So again, we'd leave that to him to assess and provide his opinion on that, and then we'd set a work schedule based on that.
Yeah, well, thank you. That's my final comments and questions. Thank you.
Mr. Fox, did you have a comment you wanted to make? Your light was on, so, okay. Thank you. Councillor Fleming.
Thank you, Mayor Hinton. Okay, what do I got here? Thankfully, my fellow council colleagues have answered or asked most of the questions, well, 2 of the questions I was going to ask. Thank you for that. Curling club parking, or I shouldn't call it curling club because I'm a curler. I call it curling club parking, but it's really the parking lot the town owns, Metatals. Did I get an answer for that last month?
I think I did answer you. I think I said, so we've talked to the developer that has the parking lot leased, and he's likely to require it up to the new year, and then after that he's going to reassess, and he may be able to provide some of the spots and then pull back the fencing. So again, we'll check with him in the new year to see what the plan is. Again, he said he has some material coming in December that's going to require the space.
Okay, perfect, thank you. And my second question is, I received an email from a veteran asking why we don't fly a Canadian flag at our town office here. That person suggested that we should always fly a Canadian flag and 24/7, and The question is, I guess, why we don't have one.
Yeah, so we have a policy established by council on flying flags. With each of our buildings, we have typically one flagpole, and which we could fly one of the three flags. Council's always directed that be the municipal flag. However, we do have a Canadian flag flying outside the police station on the Civic Square area. So again, that's the area that we've chosen to fly the Canadian flag. Okay. And again, it's not an issue of respect, but again, as municipal government, I think it's appropriate for us to be flying our own flag and making sure, again, where the War Memorial is, certainly fly the Canadian flag.
Yeah, thank you. And I agree that position where the Canadian flag flies 24/7 now is a great spot at the town square. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fleming. Thank you, everyone. Now, our second report is corporate services, and Mr. Dolter, you're up again.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the attached statement provides an overview of the financial position of the town operations up to the end of October. So property tax revenue was fully billed for the year, now standing at 100% with the second billing having gone out in September. So deed transfer tax continues to trend strongly as for previous years, and now we're at 93% of the budget. As previously indicated, revenue was likely to exceed the budget by year end. Our federal grants in lieu have been received, with the provincial grant is still outstanding. Revenue from other governments continue to flow as expected. Revenue from other services offered is strong this year, with several accounts likely to exceed the budget forecasts. With higher interest rates, we continue to do well in the interest earned on our cash holdings, and other transfers government entities remain consistent with quarterly billing schedule. Total revenue to the end of October stands at $35.02 million, or 93% of the annual budget. From an expense perspective, all departments are tracking on budget at around 60%, which is where we expect them to be. General administration continues to be slightly higher at 74%, and again, that's due to carrying the full insurance bill and the payment of the annual grants. Insurance costs will be distributed in November to their appropriate areas. So again, that will bring that number down. Strategic initiatives is reflecting at 91%, as shared expense with the county has not yet been billed out to the county. Other expenses reflect the payments of the full amount of the finance software bills. Fire services at 68%. Again, that's the payment of the water utility charges. All the other accounts are in line. Within the public service budget, streets and sidewalks are at 91%, reflecting expenditures during the construction season, as that's finishing up now. The annual gravel requirements, and also the increased cost of traffic control. Parks and Recreation and Culture is showing a higher percentage of expenditures, and the seasonal accounts reflected in the summer activities, and we're now going to start showing a little bit of revenue at the stadium, since the stadium is now open, which wasn't part of my report, but it's a good news story for us, and for the first weekend of operations. So year to date, our expenses sit at $21 million, or 56% of the annual expense budget. So overall, we continue to operate well within budget, and probably don't need to say that our revenue isn't going to keep increasing. We're at about 93%. It'll increase a little bit more, but expenses to the end of the year will continue to increase to come closer to that full expenditure number. Information technology, the IT section continues to support internal IT needs. IT coordinated the replacement of the council chambers audio and camera systems, which are working well as soon as we figure out how to use them properly. The section also supported the IT requirements of the election. There didn't appear to be any issues there at all. They continue to work on equipment at the stadium, the track grounds, and new ball field as part of those projects. The replacement upgrades for the computer systems right now stand at about 75% complete. So again, that'll be ongoing. So that is the finance report, Madam Mayor, for the end of October, respectfully submitted.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dolter. I see a couple questions are coming forward, and the first councillor up is Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Dolter, do we have an ETA for our new Director of Corporate Services so that we don't have you doing double duty here?
We are getting closer, probably within the next week or so, we should be in a position to identify somebody.
Excellent. And just, do we have an indication of the status of our reserves to end of October?
I don't have that figure at this point. That's something that I can report back to council in the January meeting.
Perfect. I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Councillor Thomas.
Yes, I just want to look under expenses, general administration and other. It's $904,000, which is large for an unidentified expenditure. So I just wondering, could you just refresh my memory what's included under the other there for general administration?
That's where the insurance costs are being put through, so that's the major cost there,
Okay.
right? So,
Okay, well,
Yeah.
thanks for that clarity. And then the last one is under corporate services, information technology. You know, that's a high bill, but that's not an annual bill, is it? That's high this year for a certain reason.
we're typically going through our cycle for maintenance and replacement, so that's likely where that is. There's also some ongoing work with the
Ballpark and things like that.
well, with the park, the police departments. There's quite a few items going in the police department, bringing on new technology.
Right.
There's software been purchased as well, like the new finance system and all that. That all is covered under those.
Yeah, I
areas.
see we're on budget. It's
Yeah.
just that we budgeted quite a bit this
Yeah.
year, particularly because this is the year in which we renew computers and technology.
Yeah, typically that would be ongoing. We do have annual licenses that have to be that are each obviously annual. You know, it is a fairly it has to be a fairly large budget just to maintain the equipment that we have.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Graham.
I was wondering about our water. I'm wondering about the rates. I think I recall at our last meeting, you mentioned that our rates would be under review this year. I'm wondering if my recollection on that is accurate. If so, has that work commenced? Will we be making an application to the UARB for rate increases on both our base rate and consumption rates?
So the way it works with UARB is they actually do the review, and they will make a recommendation on whether or not they feel the rate should change. We don't request for the rate change.
Okay.
They do the review and determine whether or not it's justified. We haven't asked for that to be done yet, but I think the intent is that we'll probably look at doing that, and that would probably be in the new year, I think. Mr. McKinnon, that's kind of what we were looking at.
Thanks for the clarity.
Yeah, hopefully we're,
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dolder, is that done every 5 years?
No, I don't think it's been a long time since we've done one, Andrew.
Yeah.
Not since I've been here, we haven't done a review, and it's been 10.
yeah. Not sure of the year of the last rate review, but we're long overdue. It probably should have been done 8 or 9 years ago. It should be done every 4 years or 5 years, whatever our terms are set at.
Is both the base rate and the consumption rate going to be under review? And do we determine one or the other of those?
Yes, we review the whole thing because our base rate and our consumption rate are both based on the actual cost of running the utility. Your fixed costs are exactly that, the fixed costs, your staffing and whatever else. Whereas your consumption charge is based on the variable cost of running the utility, the amount of chemicals you use, the amount of water that's produced, the amount of water that's used, the amount of water that's lost from flushing or water breaks. So it's all under review. We'll hire a consultant to do all the review process and then make our submission to the UARB for their approval. But everything be taken into account, everything be studied, as well as our future capital needs of the water utility.
Okay. Seeing as we're on the topic of water and I have your attention, I recently attended the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities meetings. I understand that recently some of our neighboring counties have removed fluoride from their water. Do we have fluoride in our water? Have we?
No, we do not.
do not.
And we've never put fluoride in the water because it's controversial on whether it actually does anything or not. Because if you drink fluoride, I'm not sure how much of it is of value to your teeth and how much of it you just consume.
Thanks.
Thank you, Counselor. Seeing no more questions, we'll move along, and our next report is our fire services report. And Chief Blaise Curry, would you please give us your report?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Council. Last month, we received 113 calls. We had 8 structure fires, 2 motor vehicle fires, 2 transformer fires, 1 fuel spill, 1 propane leak, 17 alarms, 15 motor vehicle collisions, 62 medical calls, 2 public assistance, 1 mutual aid, and 2 burning complaints. The fire inspector for last month did 9 inspections, 7 follow-up inspections, 2 alcohol and gaming inspections, 5 orders to take actions, 1 summary offense ticket. We did 9 fire prevention tours, overflowing from the month of October. We did 3 fire drills for Truro and Millbrook First Nations, and he completed 6 fire investigations. Last month we trained on aerial familiarization, chainsaws, and medicals. Respectfully submitted.
Thank you, Chief. Are there any questions for the Chief today? Well, no questions for you today. You got off easy, Chief.
I did, thank you.
Moving on, we're going to go to our Planning and Development Report with Director Jason Fox. Mr. Fox?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a report for Planning and Development Report for November 2024. Planning and Development Projects, Affordable Housing and Regulatory Framework. The CAO and the Director of Planning, myself, met with their counterparts, our counterparts at the County Colchester offices on November 13th to discuss implementing a regional strategy to address housing supply and affordability issues. County staff will be scheduling a follow-up meeting in December or January once they have an opportunity to review the town's proposal in detail. Second item there is follow-up review housekeeping amendments. So staff are currently working on a series of amendments to the plan to correct the community plan to correct minor errors and omissions, which were adopted as when the plan was put in place earlier this year. These amendments will be reviewed or have been reviewed by the Planning Advisory Committee at their November meeting and will be presented to the public information meeting, which will be scheduled for January 25th at 6 p.m. in these chambers. Shared services with the town of Stewiacke, third item there. The town of Truro has negotiated a shared services agreement with the town of Stewiacke where Truro will be providing planning and development services to the town of Stewiacke. This agreement will expand a long-standing arrangement between the two towns where Truro has been providing building inspection services to Stewiacke for over 20 years. Planning applications, we have 3 current applications. One at 656 Young Street, one at 60 Juniper Street, and one at Rexdale Ford and Marshland in that area. Site plan approval applications, we have 4 of those, one at 45 Duke Street, one at 35 King, one at 161 McLean Street, and one at 80 Lyman Street. In terms of value of construction or permits issued for November of 2023 of last year, we were at this time of year, we were at $7,259,604. In November, year to date last year, we were at $39,514,265, and year to date this year, we're at $36,555,777. I did provide some additional statistics there for council's information. And also under active bylaw violations by property for November 2024, the table that was included in the report was an error. I did provide an additional copy, which was sent out by, or a corrected version, which was sent out by email today. So we had 40 active files in November, and 12 of those have been resolved. Respectfully submitted.
Thank you very much for that report. I see I've got questions. I thought we were going to have a Christmas miracle there for a minute. I didn't see any names popping up. Not happening. First up is Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Fox, regarding the site plan approvals, we had discussed previously the possibility of adding those online as well. You had some privacy concerns. Have we come to a resolution on whether or not we'll be able to provide that additional information on the town website?
We're working on that right now. Request is put in. We're just working on updating the website to do that.
Excellent, thank you. And then one last question. the session on January 25th for the housekeeping amendments, that's the same date as the Planning Advisory Committee meeting as well. So do we have a set length of how long that public session will be before we jump into PAC?
We don't, but we can formalize that at the next PAC meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Next, Councillor Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Fox, I was just wondering about 45 Duke. Are you familiar with the request or the permit that's being issued on that?
Somewhat, not in detail, no.
Okay, well, it's just whether or not there's a building on that site now, and so they're looking to add an extra unit into that, because there's 2 units in that now. I'm familiar with the property. And is that additional 8 dwelling units, is that going to be behind that, or is it going to be an add-on, or can you answer that, or is that detailed?
No, I don't have enough information to
Okay.
respond to that now.
Okay, thank you. And then and that's understandable. The value of the permits and the information they gave that to us, so if you could look at that, the dwelling units constructed since 2014 are 594, correct?
Correct.
And then, so those have finished, those have been constructed.
Correct.
So then we add the dwelling units currently under construction, and we have constructed and currently being constructed, we have 943 units. That's quite an accomplishment. I mean, that's a lot of building taking place in the last 10 years in the town of Truro.
Yes.
You know, for a population of
Yeah, and I
15,000 people, you don't have 943 units, essentially 1,000 units, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's quite impressive. And that does not include the Stanfield project? Can I ask that question, you know?
It does not, no.
Wow,
Because
okay.
nothing that, if it hasn't broken ground, essentially it doesn't get included in this list.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor. Up next is Councillor Graham.
At our most recent Planning Advisory Committee meeting, a motion was unanimously passed to require the development at Juniper Street to present their stormwater management plan prior to their application coming before our council for approval. Has that requirement been communicated to the developers of the Juniper Street?
Yes, it has.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. We'll move on. Our next report is the Truro Police Service. Chief Dave McNeil, would you please present your report to us?
Okay, thanks, Mayor Hinton. November's report is as follows. We had 24 traffic collisions. We issued 161 Motor Vehicle Act tickets, conducted 24 road safety check stops, investigated 23 noise kind of bylaw type complaints, 6 impaired driving investigations, 3 drug investigations, 99 other provincial acts such as Liquor Control Act or Trespass Act files. There were 70 mental health and well-being checks, 32 files for violation of court orders or failed to appear in court. There were 9 crimes against persons, 11 assaults, 27 thefts, 10 property damage or disturbance calls, 4 break-and-enters, 1 fraud, 81 suspicious vehicles or persons calls, 21 alarms, and 109 other general assistance calls for a total of 715 calls, resulting in 205 charges. A summary of the parking tickets that are there. There was 22 parking tickets issued for various offenses, and there was also 59 speeding offenses on a variety of roads in Truro. Respectfully submitted.
Thank you very much, Chief. I have a question from Councillor Graham.
I think it's unfortunate that we turn to you for the answer to my question, but it seems that you're the one closest to the ground who has the best information. Wondering, as we're approaching the winter months, how many residents, in your best estimation, are living in tents within the town at this time? Do you have?
Yeah, it's a bit of a moving target. I mean, I can't say for certainty, but
Yeah.
there's probably within our boundary, probably 8 to 10.
8
I would
to
think,
10.
yeah. Outside of Truro, in Lower Truro, there's a substantial number there. That's kind of an encampment they have there. But yeah, it's probably 8 or 10 active tents that we know of. I mean, there's probably higher, but that's what we know of.
That's what you know. Are we as a town making any, through you, Mayor, to our CAO, Are we considering those 10 tenters? Are we looking at some solutions? What is our responsibility to those 10 individuals?
The province has shifted funding and authorized the opening of the emergency shelter again this winter. So that last winter, I believe that was 15 beds supported by Souls Harbor. That is moving forward again this year. And again, that should provide those bed spaces for those people that can be housed.
Can you clarify our role as a town?
We're providing some of the permit and some of the support, as well as some of the other services that may be requested. Again, last year we weren't directly involved with the emergency shelter. They pretty well operated self-sustained. But again, we're available to work with them. And again, the staff have worked with Souls Harbor last year and the church to ensure that all the residents, clients there are safe, and that the building is set up in a way that ensures that they are safe and can occupy the space without any issues. But again, it is being run by a nonprofit. So again, we don't have any direct involvement unless they come to us and have a specific request that we'd have to review.
Thank you.
I called a meeting 2 weeks ago with Sarah Fleming and Allison Grant, and I've got another meeting scheduled. There's 11 players coming, key players, including the chief, on Wednesday in my office. So we're moving forward on this. It's very important. And I did an interview this morning with CBC Radio, a follow-up again about the encampments. So it's a priority. We're moving forward. We're doing what we can do. And hopefully some really positive things will come out of this meeting. I feel it will. Up next is Councillor Fleming.
Thank you, Mayor Hinton. I could comment a little bit on my second year as a member of the Truro Housing Outreach Society. We've been dealing with this obviously regularly every month. And I do have a report I'm going to give. I know we've discussed it for a while, but we're all on committees, and nobody knows what the other committees are doing. So I'm on the Truro Housing Outreach Society. I'm also the chair of the Colchester Residential Services Society. So I'm going to give an update to council, what we're doing with those things later on in the meeting.
I look forward to that. Thank you very much. Councillor Graham?
Wondering, will we be receiving a formalized report of that meeting where you have 11 attending?
Yes, I'll make sure everyone knows what happened at that meeting. That's important, that we get that information out to everybody. Because I know we all care so much on this panel, so we'll definitely get that out.
Thank you.
Okay, no more further questions? Oh, wait, I do see one there, Councillor Talbot.
Yeah, and for the CAO, Mike, I watched a news coverage of the Souls Harbor thing, and we weren't involved. So they're doing that independent of the town. Is that correct?
Yes, they are. I mean, they're an independent nonprofit. So again, they've worked closely with the province in the past to provide that support. So they've come to us for a permit, which we're working with them on. And but other than that, it's kind of their operation.
And they'll be at that meeting as well, Councillor Talbot, on Wednesday. Okay, seeing no further questions, we're going to move on now to item 7, and that's the Public Works Report presented by Director Andrew McKinnon. I always call it the big show. He seems to be the busy one. They're all busy, but that streets and sidewalks, that's the priority. So we're moving on to you, Mr. McKinnon, for your report, please, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, attached is my annual brief report for month of November each year. Engineering summary: during the month of November, Public Works staff continued cleaning up summer operations and maintenance activities. The focus was on finishing the majority of infrastructure maintenance and preparation of switching operations over to winter activities. As reported last month, SW Weeks Construction Limited completed the roundabout project, save for the street lighting, as the poles are still on back order. Actually, I had an update the other day that the poles were damaged. They arrived as far as Kingston, Ontario, and they're damaged. And they're going to substitute someone else's order for our order, but it's still going to be another 2 or 3 weeks away. Harborside Engineering are close to finalizing the active transportation plan, and will be, they did review a draft report with us just at the end of last week. So a new report, final report, should be coming out within the next couple of weeks. Dexter Construction started the Willow Street Sidewalk project that is scheduled for completion in September of 2025. Public Works summary: transportation crews have been busy with street patching and concrete maintenance. They also continue with sign maintenance, street sweeping, downtown maintenance, including installation and removal of the Remembrance Day veteran banners that were on the streets, and started preparation of equipment for winter activities. Environmental services crews continue water and sewer maintenance activities, which included hydrant maintenance, catch basin, manhole maintenance, pump maintenance. Crews also installed 2 sewer laterals, 1 water lateral, and attended to 1 plug sewer. They also completed the fall flushing of the water mains. Respectfully submitted.
Thank you very much. The first question up is from Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just wondering, sir, the updates to the active transportation plan through this consultant, will that be presented to the Active Transportation Committee? I know that committee hasn't met for some time, but it seems that with things moving along now, perhaps we need to have another meeting to make all the parties there aware of what's happening.
Yeah, as soon as we get something, we can present it to council or the committee, whatever the wish of council is, yes.
Excellent. And then one question about the street prioritization list. I know we have that list present. When was the last time that all those streets were reviewed? Like, was that a 5-year-old list, 10-year-old list, 6-month-old list? Like, I'm just wondering how often we review. I know there were some discussions in previous council meetings that then Deputy Mayor Hinton had brought up regarding the condition of Laurie Street, and it seemed that that one had degraded faster than we had thought. So that makes me wonder how often we review that list to see what changes may have occurred.
We've been reviewing them annually, and we are halfway through this year's review. I think we missed last year reviewing them, but other than that, we were reviewing them each year. And Laurie Street just didn't degrade the way it's been reported. It's still kind of low on the priority list compared to all the others. But we're also enhancing that whole system, and we'll do a report for council in the new year on the whole new system. We're enhancing it all, and we're doing a more comprehensive asset management that will also include the other components of our infrastructures, water and sewer and everything. So,
excellent. I look forward to seeing that. Do you anticipate many major changes in that prioritization list with this new system?
I'm not really sure. I don't think so, no. I don't expect it to be that big of a change, but that's why last year we didn't put out a 5-year list, because we knew we were in the process of making change. We didn't want undue expectations for what a year 2 and year 3 might be if we're rolling out a new system.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Councillor Graham?
I was just wondering if you have been able to quantify in any way the success of the investment into the roundabout at Willow Street. And secondly, wondering, has it improved traffic flow exiting off Lower Truro Road and James Street? The hope, I know, was that traffic would flow better, thereby making it more easy to come off those 2 streets.
Just anecdotally, the roundabout, as far as measuring the improvements of the flow at that intersection, we haven't had any complaints. So I would say it's working a lot better, and it is much safer for pedestrians. For actual traffic exiting Lower Truro Road onto McClure's Mills Road, we probably should do some more surveillance on that, maybe put up our speed and traffic counting cameras to see, but we haven't had any evidence yet one way or the other on that intersection.
Thanks.
Mr. McKinnon, there's been a complaint filed, I mentioned to our CAO earlier. There's been some sod ripped up around the roundabout. I'm just wondering if that can be looked into and fixed up before the ground freezes.
Yes, we plan to, yes.
Thank you very much. Councillor Talbot?
Yeah, Andrew, talking to a number of people, and they have a lot of leaves in their garages, and we're taking 3 bags per pickup. I'm just wondering, do we have a cutoff date where we'll no longer be picking those up?
No, with our new garbage collection contract, it's 2 or 3 bags a year, whatever the limit was, but it's every 2 weeks all year. And we're really trying to encourage more people to mulch their leaves in place. And, you know, a lot of people say, well, I got too many. Well, there really isn't such thing as too many. I mulch layers of 6 inches at a time in leaves in my yard, and they mulch up just fine. And it's good fertilizer for your lawn. We really encourage people to do that.
Thank you, councillors. Thank you, Director McKinnon. Our final committee report is Parks Recreation from someone who is smiling today because the stadium's open, our Director Ashley Sims. So Ms. Sims, if you could prepare your report, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. General maintenance continues across downtown, parks, fields, and trails. Winter decorations have been installed in downtown, Riverfront, Park, Victoria Square, and Civic Square. We hope everyone enjoys the festive lights this holiday season. Staff are prepping Civic Square for the installation of the Caldwell Roach King's Mutual Insurance ice surface. Weather permitting, we aim to have the ice surface open by Christmas. Seasonal staff were laid off on Friday, November 29th for the winter months, and the Colchester Legion Stadium reopened for regular operations on December 1st. The Atlantic Tree Solutions has been awarded the contract for street side hazard pruning and Dutch elm disease work, which is set to begin this month. As part of the Community Energy and Emissions Plan, a microforest is being planned for the green space on Park Street near the Truro Bible Hill Dog Park. Weekly brush clearing continues in Victoria Park, focusing on maintaining a 15-foot buffer along the trail edges. Material beyond this area is left as coarse woody debris to support habitat, biodiversity, and forest health. 6 maintenance staff in Victoria Park have completed a newly internal developed technical felling training program. And for programs and special events, the Hometown Hero Veteran Banner Program was very successful this year, with 202 banners installed for Remembrance Day. Our community drop-in programs are ongoing. For a full list of our programs, residents can contact the Douglas Street Recreation Center or visit the town's website. In partnership with Downtown Truro Partnership, the Festival of Lights Christmas tree lighting took place on November 22nd at Civic Square. The event was well attended, and instead of fireworks, DTP unveiled a holiday light show projected on the front of the Truro Public Library. This light show will run every evening from 5:30 to 10:30 p.m. until Friday, December 6th. Plans for the New Year's Eve on the town are underway, with fireworks scheduled for 7:30 p.m. Families will be able to pick up tickets for time-allocated activities in mid-December. Throughout November, the town of Truro made an effort to recognize and celebrate important dates within our community. These include Diwali, Indigenous Veterans Day, Viola Desmond Day, Remembrance Day, National Nurse Practitioner Week, and Transgender Day of Remembrance. Respectfully submitted.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Director Sims? I see Councillor Fleming.
Oh, I'm turned on.
Thank you. That one was my fault. I turned it off. I hit the button, sorry. Through you, Mayor Hinton, to our Director of Parks, Recreation, and Culture. I, probably in the last 45 years, I've been to 44 Christmas parades. The last couple, I was on the last float, and I don't think we've had as many people as we had this year. It was just amazing. And kudos to everyone who volunteered and did the work there. And I've seen even the chief of police and the deputy chief were out riding bikes around, but it was great. It went without a hitch, and it was nice to see the people out there enjoying the parade. And Councillor Thomas dropped down too to help out, so thanks for that.
Very positive. Thanks for that, Councillor. Councillor Graham?
My question is with regard to the microforest that the CEEP is investing in. Can you tell us what a microforest is and why we need one and what it's all about?
Yeah, so this was a recommendation through SEEP, and basically we'll do a number of different varieties of trees just to help clean our air and just have mini forests throughout the town, and that is the first location that we're looking at.
Councillor Talbot?
Yes, don't have a question, but I'd just like to thank you and your team for shepherding through the reopening of the arena. I know it took longer than expected, cost more than we wanted to pay, but in my humble opinion, we can't put a dollar value on that asset. That serves a lot of the organizations in town that don't have deep pockets, and it's very, very refreshing to see that the town was able to keep our pledge to have that reopen. So again, thank you and your team.
Thank you.
Councillor McGrath?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And yeah, I didn't actually manage to get down to the Christmas parade in person, unfortunately. I was reviewing the housekeeping amendments for PAC. But I did have my phone up with the streaming, so I'm thankful to all those who helped stream DTP, for example. I did have a question on the Hemlock Woolly Adelgid plan. Do we have an update on that? Is that still progressing? Is it completed? Where are we?
Yeah, the committee has come together. They have all the members now for the committee. I believe they're meeting next week, and they said they're going to have a presentation for us at our next Parks, Recreation, and Culture committee meeting, which will be in January.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, is there any further questions today on any of the reports given by our directors? Councillor McGrath?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is for the Director of Public Works. I had a resident reach out to me regarding flashing lights at the corner, or the intersection of Walker and Queen. This isn't something that I've seen personally. Obviously, I advise them to submit a complaint form, as is the process. Are you aware of any issues at that intersection?
Yeah, we've had ongoing issues at that intersection. It seems every time it rains and our electrical contractors having a hard time trying to diagnose what the actual issue is. So that's all the current issue is. Also, you had mentioned that whether we're going to do that on a permanent basis at night, and that is not a plan. It's something I had long looked into, thought we should go to, and then the more I talk with traffic engineers around and counterparts in HRM, everyone else is getting away from that now. They used to do that, but they found too many new drivers were getting confused on what to do at flashing light intersections. So they're finding it more dangerous. So the big move is towards fully functional actuation at intersections. So that's what we're planning on. And we've now installed 5 new computerized controller cabinets at 5 of our intersections. So we're moving towards more of the full actuation at our intersections to reduce the stop times through the middle of the night.
Okay, so this isn't a location that would possibly be a candidate for another roundabout, would it? I'm just thinking, with the failure of the lights and how well the Willow Street roundabout seems to be moving and improving the flow of traffic, I wonder, is there room there? Is that a possibility as well, or are we going to stick with signalized intersections?
Just at the capital cost of building roundabouts, I assume we're going to stick with signalized intersection. But yeah, I mean, we use a roundabout in probably 3 or 4 locations, but at $3 or $4 million a roundabout, yeah, I can't see that we'll be doing that anytime soon.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Director McKinnon. I see Councillor Thomas, you have a question?
Yeah, really just a comment, because I sit on the Urban Forest Committee, and I just want to assure people that both the committee and the town are proactive. We're taking a proactive approach when it comes to the Hemlock Woolly Adelgid. We're not sitting back and waiting for devastation. We've got our eyes and ears open and are ready to act. So, who knows what the future will bring, but, I think this council, the town, and the people on that committee really believe that park is very precious to us all, and we want to preserve it as best we can. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Fleming.
Thank you, Mayor Hinton. I'll take this opportunity to update council on the two committees I'm on, I guess. I don't know where else I could fit it in on the, until we rearrange our agenda later on. Truro Housing Outreach Society. I'd like everyone to know that we're in the process of purchasing a building in the Onslow area. It's going to have 9 rooms for permanent housing for people that are currently unhoused. It's a pretty big property, so there's room there for us to put offices and stuff in there. So what you'll find now is a lot of people, or what we're finding, is a lot of people that are out front of the building. They're waiting to, they're not residents there of Haven House, but they're waiting for appointments with people who work in there. So what we're doing is we're going to move them to this new residence. So hopefully that'll cut down on the people that are out front and waiting for appointments and that type of thing. Yeah, and the Middle Drive camp, there's about 15 persons living there. That's over by out by Frenchie's there by the highway. And there's a group of local citizens. I think they have a Facebook group that are doing a lot of assistance with that. It's fantastic, but it, I don't think there is a criticism, but maybe they could use a little more organization. So that's what the THAW staff have done. They've got a hold of this group and they're working with them to focus the funding and the gifts in the proper area. And then they're all, and our outreach employees are also meeting with the residents of the Meadow Drive camp and helping them in any way that they can. And with the ultimate goal, obviously, is finding permanent housing for them. And just so people know, the Meadow Drive camp, they're on private property, and the property owner has given them permission to stay there. So yeah, not everyone knows that, but and as previously mentioned, Souls Harbor have been, the province approached THAWS first, Haven House, to see if we could set up something for overnight shelter during the winter months, but unfortunately we weren't able to access a spot for it, a location. So what we did, thank goodness Souls Harbor stepped up, and they're going to have it in the same location they did last year on Pleasant Street. And no, they're a great organization. They and obviously do a lot of work for unhoused people in the area. I'm just going to switch hats to the Colchester Residential Services Society. We are a group of group homes, and we deal with mainly residents that are coming from residential government-run services, such as over in Bible Hill years ago. Remember when they closed down that area? There's a remedy that's going on. It's a regards to human rights hearing and hearing rights order, I guess, that the province has to empty out all their services, or the residential centers such as Sunset House and Pugwash. They have to be all emptied out. I think it was supposed to have been last year, but there's still a number of residents that don't. So what that means is, even with our own houses, we can't house any more than 5 people in one unit. So it's making it harder for us. So we have to, some of our houses have 7 or 8 people, so we have to cut them down and maybe rent the other ones out. But to make a long story short, we're expecting upwards of 30 to 40 people to be coming in that need houses. So what we've done through our director, Shannon McClellan, she's reached out to the Marchands that are building the apartment buildings up on Yonge Street, and she secured 9 units, 1 whole floor up there in the new ones that they're building, which is a great idea. And they're going to outfit them for our needs, so they're going to be totally accessible. And then it works for them too, because I mean, they're going to have guaranteed rent, and if we have to have staff there, we have. And then another building they're building up there, we're gonna have, they've agreed to make two apartments into one. So we can have a staff person there, and then we'll have rooms off it. I think we're gonna have maybe 2 or 3 units, like double units like that, so. I mean, things are moving, and people, you know, I mean, it's not people's fault because they don't know, but people are out there doing things. We're doing our best. We're trying to get things done. So don't think we're sitting here, you know, with our ring in our hand saying, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. I, along with other people, we're doing our best, and we're trying to get things done. So, and anyone who wants to sit there and run your face off on Facebook or whatever, have at it, because you're not doing anyone any good. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. That's very positive, and I really appreciate that update. And there are a lot of people that are working hard behind the scenes, and no one's sitting idle, so that is very well appreciated. I just also want to say that the Souls Harbor on Pleasant Street is going to be opening until April the 30th as well. So it's, and thank heavens they've stepped up. It's wonderful. Councillor Graham.
My question is for you, the mayor. Wondering, with a new council, of course, it comes with new appointments to various committees and boards in our community. Wondering when those assignments will be complete.
Mr. Dolter and I are going to be, we have appointments scheduled on Wednesday. We're going to be going over the list, so we'll know this week.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Councillor Fleming.
Just a quick question. Are you on the PAC committee board now?
Yep.
Okay, so how was that appointment done, and what was that all about?
Mr. Dolter, do you want to take that?
Yeah, that was done basically as a quick, basically, as we had the PAC meeting coming up. So there was just an email sent out to requesting just interest in that, and again, Councillor McGrath's name came forward just as a you know, to see if he was interested. It was because it was a short-term requirement. Yeah. And the mayor has the ability to do that appointment.
Councillor?
Thank you. I totally don't disagree with the appointment. I'm just wondering, I didn't receive an email asking me if I wanted to go on the PAC committee.
I think in the PAC committee, it's usually one representative, council representative from each ward as well.
Yeah, and it is. That is correct as well. So the vacancy was in Ward 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've got through our reports, and I don't see any further questions in the queue. So the chair would now call for a motion to accept all the committee reports. May I have a motion, please? Councillor McGrath, a seconder. Councillor Graham, seconded by Councillor Graham. All those in favor of accepting the reports, please signal by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? All reports are passed. Motion is carried. We are now at our section of questions by members. Is there any questions by members? Okay, Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just with Councillor Fleming's update on the committees that he's sitting on, will that be something that we'll be adding to? Because I like the idea, and I think I've brought this up before. We really should be, you know, have an idea of what each of the committees are up to and a little bit more. Is that something that you foresee happening at the public council meetings, or having staff share the approved minutes to council emails? Does anybody have any thoughts on how we're going to accomplish that?
We're going to work out the logistics on that, but I do think the chair should be able to provide like a little Coles Note briefing of everything, like Councillor Fleming did today, on what's happening. That keeps us all in the loop, so we know what's happening. So whether that will be at Committee of the Whole, we'll do something sent out, or we'll do it at the public meeting. I think Mr. Dolter and I, that's a discussion we're going to have on Wednesday.
Yeah, and it certainly could be. It could be an item for the agenda. It could be an item for Committee of the Whole as well too. Again, depends on how you want to do it. I was just thinking, if the chair of all of the committees is always a councillor, and I don't think that is the case, and I think a good example is Heritage Advisory Committee.
It's also Parks and Rec.
Yeah, so it's not always a council member. So again, we'll have to figure out those items. So yeah, because if we made an agenda item for the public meeting, it could be a report, but it wouldn't necessarily be the chair's report. Yeah, so I'll just have to look at those issues.
Okay.
Okay, for anyone who is interested, I do happen to have the approved minutes from the June 25th meeting of the African Nova Scotian Community Strategy Committee. We did meet Friday just past. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to give them that update afterward. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Talbot?
Yeah, I just want to be clear on this. Any of these changes we're talking about taking, are they not council decisions?
That's why the council agenda is on the agenda today, because it is council's decision on how they want to make those modifications.
Yeah, but I just thought I heard the mayor say that you and her would be meeting.
That was for the committee, that's for the committee appointments, which,
Yeah.
that's what the policy says, that it is the mayor's decision to appoint the committees. It's the mayor, for committees, it's, inside committees is the mayor's decision, outside, for non-council members on committees, it's the mayor and deputy mayor.
Yeah, and if we decide to change the way council functions, put a different set of reports in, that's a council decision, right?
Yeah, correct.
Thank you very much. So now we are moving on to motions and reconsiderations. Mr. Dolter, do we have any?
No, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Moving forward, we have under new business, the appointment of our deputy mayor. When the mayor is unable to perform their duties due to illness, absence, or other reasons, the deputy mayor assumes the position of the mayor. I will now call for nominations for the position of deputy mayor. Councillor McGrath?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If they are willing to accept, I would like to nominate Councillor Bill Thomas for the position of deputy mayor.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the nomination for Councillor Thomas? Councillor Pryor, you're seconding that? Sorry about that. I didn't let you're seconding that. Thank you. Okay, so Councillor Thomas, you've been nominated and it's been seconded for the position of deputy mayor. Are you prepared to let your name stand for the position? Okay. I will now call for any further nominations for the position of deputy mayor.
Yep.
I don't see it didn't come on the queue here. Okay. Councillor Graham.
I'd like to nominate Wayne Talbot.
Okay, you want to nominate Wayne Talbot? Seconder for Councillor Talbot?
I'll
Councillor
second
Fleming?
that.
Okay. Councillor Talbot, you have been nominated for the position of deputy mayor. Will you let your name stand for that position?
No, I respectfully decline, thank you.
You're declining, okay, thank you. Is there any further nominations for deputy mayor? I have to ask 3 times. I'm asking for the second time. Is there any further nominations for deputy mayor? My third and final ask, is there any nominations for deputy mayor? Okay, seeing no further nominations for deputy mayor, I would like to congratulate Councillor Bill Thomas, who is our new deputy mayor. Yes, Councillor Graham.
How long is the term for deputy mayor?
The term is 1 year.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, our next item under new business is a request for decision for board members to the RAC. So, Mr. Dolter?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the rec board has 2 vacancies for citizen appointments representing the town of Truro. The attached applications have been put forward to fill these roles. So the rec board has recommended Shalimar Emanuel and Susan Clark as the citizens appointees for the town of Truro. So again, council has copies of both those individuals' resumes and their applications. So the proposed motion is, be it resolved, the council accept the recommendation of the rec board to appoint Shalimar Emanuel and Susan Cook.
Okay, council, you have heard the comments by Mr. Dolter and the 2 names that have been brought forward. Would somebody like to make a motion for these two names? Kate? Councillor Fleming has made the motion. I need a seconder. Councillor Thomas? Councillors, any questions or discussion about these names? Councillor Fleming?
Thank you, Mayor Hinton. Do these nominees have to reside in the town of Truro?
Typically, they would, yes.
I see Ms. Cook lives on Miller Road.
That's in the county.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I apologize again. I know that the rec knows that requirement. I did not check residency, to be honest. Yeah. So, yeah, I think residency was a requirement unless otherwise waived by council. So if council accept Ms. Cook's, candidacy or the recommendation, they could put her in place with the recognition that she does not actually reside in the town. And if council were not to appoint her or accept the recommendation, then we'd ask the rec to go out for further names.
Are these the only two that apply?
These are the two that did come forward, yes, that the rec felt were warranted coming to council for.
The only two that came from the rec, or the only two that applied?
Well, no, because typically what we would do is the rec is the one that goes out under the system we use now and asks for the people to come forward. And then the board reviews and then makes the recommendations to fill the vacancies. And then we accept those recommendations.
Does the county of Colchester have 2 seats as well?
They do.
So they would give them 3 then?
That would give them 3 people that reside in the county. I would assume the person would.
No, I know.
Yeah,
I'm not saying,
yeah,
no,
I
they're
understand what you mean.
they're bipartisan.
Yeah, no, yeah.
It's not gonna, and I read Ms. Cook's resume and her application. It was impeccable. It was good, and I have no issues with her going on the board. I just wanted everyone to realize that she doesn't live in Truro.
So Madam Mayor, it would be up to council whether or not they want to accept Ms. Cook's the recommendation for her, as she is not a actual resident of the town.
Councillor McGrath, comment?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. First up, I want to ask if we should even be discussing this here. Per the committee policy, appointment of citizen members of committees is usually done in camera. Should we be moving this to an in camera, or we?
Well, in this particular case, because council's not the one vetting these, that's typically why we do that in camera. In this particular case, it's a recommendation that came from the rec. They've done the vetting process and made these recommendations to their board. So I think council's decision here is whether or not to accept or not accept the recommendation, and then go back to the rec to further seek a member if they were to reject Ms. Cook's application.
Okay, given that the rec is co-owned by town and county, I would assume residency in town or county would be in the terms of reference, not necessarily in town?
The requirement is typically it would be a town resident. Again, I apologize, I did not look at the address thinking that the rec had done that vetting.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Talbot?
Yeah, I for one can't support that recommendation, even though I feel the person is eminently qualified. I had to go through the exercise to have someone removed from the police board, and as far as I'm concerned, that set a precedent that the town committees are staffed by people from the town, so I'm not prepared to support that.
Mr. Dalter, did you want to say something?
Depending on council's feeling, we can amend the proposed motion, which would be to approve the appointment of Shalimar Manuel, and then we would go back to the rec and let them know that they need to seek a resident of the town in order to fill the second seat.
Okay, thank you very much. So you've heard the discussion here today. Councillor Fleming, you've got a point?
Yeah, thank you. I approve that. I'm okay with the
amendment.
amendment, yes.
Okay, council, so,
Need a seconder for that, Madam?
yes, do we have a seconder for the change in amendment? Councillor Thomas? So the motion on the floor would be, do we accept the name of Shalimar Manuel as an appointee to the Rec Board. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Okay. For Shalimar, that's the town person? Okay, you're with, okay, good. So that's unanimous. So Shalimar Manuel has the approval of council to be on the Rec Board.
Yeah.
Okay? And Mr. Dolter, should we make a motion to have the next name, or do you just want to bring it back?
I'll just bring it back, Madam Mayor, and actually I advise you incorrectly there, because we should have defeated the first motion.
Yes.
And then we should have amended.
Okay.
So again, I think technically we're okay, but, you know, as long as council accepts the fact that we should have voted on the first motion.
Okay, all right, and
Yeah.
we'll bring the other name once we
Yeah.
get one back to
Yeah.
see what we're going to do. Okay, so we've all approved, that's going forward, okay, good. So that motion is approved, all right. Okay, item 10, the request for, okay, where are we at here? For a decision for 38 Alice Street. Mr. Dolter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the Town Council entered into a development agreement with Meach Holdings Limited on August 13th, 2013 to permit a residential development consisting of a mixture of dwelling types and a maximum of 28 dwelling units on lands currently identified as 3 to 11 Laurie Street, 34 to 36 Alice Street, and 62 to 76 Wood Street. The property owner has constructed 18 of the 28 permitted dwelling units. The property owner would like to construct a four-unit residential building on the property on the corner of Wood and Tor Streets. To do so, the developer has requested a 1.5-year extension to Part 7.3 timing extensions of the registered agreement, which would give the property owner until February 2026 to complete the construction. The current agreement requires all units ready for occupancy within 10 years of entering into the agreement, which would have been August 2023. That date has passed, which is why the timing extension has been requested. So, Madam Mayor, the proposed motion is be it resolved the council grant a 1.5-year extension to the timing provision noted in Part 7.3 of the August 2013 development agreement between the town and Meach Holdings Limited.
Thank you, Mr. Dolter. I would call for a motion on the street timing extension for 38 Alice Street. Councillor Fleming, seconder, please. Councillor Graham. Any discussion, council, on this motion? Okay. Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A question on just the timing here. This original development agreement expired in August of 2023. It's now December of 2024. That's almost a year and a half later. Are there any time limits involved for a timing extension of this sort? I assume that maybe goes to Mr. Dolter or Mr. Fox.
Mr. Fox?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. The timing extensions are okay as long as the agreement isn't discharged. So it's council's discretion to discharge the agreement. The agreement hasn't been discharged; it's still sitting on the books. So it's fine to it remains in effect until such time as discharged by actually the CAO at this now. With recent amendments to the MGA, it's now the CAO's responsibility to discharge agreements, and this one's still on the books, so still good.
Okay, so we don't find ourselves into any hot water if we extend this after this time period?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Fleming. Are you on yet?
Thank you, Mary Hinton. I have more of a question or a comment, not specifically with this, but this seems to be coming up quite a bit after the fact when these approvals are already expired. My question is to Mr. Fox. Do you have a calendar set up, like 6 months before these things expire, that you can maybe get a hold of the developer and say, listen, are you thinking about continuing on with this, or so we can get it approved before it expires?
Yeah, he's on. Oh, there he goes. There we go.
No, we don't have a calendar set up. The agreements just remain on the books until we discharge them. So we can start doing that, because you are correct that it has been a bit of a, seems to be a recurring issue, so we can go through them, and I think it's been requested already by council, that we put together a list of agreements that are on the books and give you an idea of where they are in the schedule, but we generally don't discharge them unless there's been a change in land use in the area or change in policies, things like that. So if there isn't anything new in place in terms of regulations that would say that development couldn't be allowed today, we don't generally discharge them.
Councillor Thomas?
Yeah, through Madam Mayor to Mr. Fox, I was just wondering, it says that this would give the property owner until February 2026 to complete construction. And I'm just worried about a year and a half, and I would have thought that we were just extending the development agreement and not the project completion. Do I have that wrong? Like it says here in the description. Do you understand my question?
Sorry, Councillor Thomas. No, sorry, Deputy Mayor Thomas. I don't quite follow. Sorry.
I'll try it. I'll reword it. Normally, I thought that what we're doing is extending the development agreement. And when with the development agreement, we don't put timelines in as far as completion, do we?
We do.
We do?
Yeah.
Okay. So this project at this point needs to be completed within a year and a half, or February 2026. Mm-hmm. So that's everything done on this project. That's what they've applied for.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Any further questions? I see none. So all those in favor of approving the extension for 38 Alice Street, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Very good. That has been approved. Motion approved. We are moving on to request for oh wait, no, we're not. We're moving, yes, we're going code of conduct. No, accessibility, sorry. We're okay. So now we're looking for request for decision for Accessibility Advisory Committee. Mr. Dolter, please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the Regional Accessibility Committee requires members to be reappointed as per the committee's terms of reference. Members that are requested to be reappointed are Michelle Wood, Melissa Higgins, and Tracy McLennan. So proposed motion, Madam Mayor, is be resolved the council reappoint Michelle Wood, Melissa Higgins, and Tracy McLennan as the town's citizen representatives on the committee as per the terms of reference, which are attached for council's review.
Thank you. I would now call for a motion. Councillor Graham and Councillor McGrath, seconded. Any discussion on this? Councillor Talbot.
Yes, these names are coming forward because their term has expired, or?
Yes, correct. Well, according to terms of reference, the terms have expired, so they'd have to be reappointed.
And they did a 1 or 2 year term?
Just 1 second.
Well, I guess that's not as important as
Yeah.
the other question. They're eligible to be reappointed because they can serve X number of years. Would that be correct?
Yeah, so again, shall be a term, oh, sorry, no, that's incorrect, sorry. Yeah, they're eligible to be reappointed, yes. That's why the committees put their names forward.
So it's like all the town committees up to 6 years, is it?
It depends on the committee. Some terms are only 3 years for citizen representatives. Some of them are longer, and some are eligible for reappointment once, and some of them are into perpetuity depending on the committee.
Okay, so these are eligible for reappointment.
These are
that
eligible
was
for
my
reappointment.
point, yeah.
Yeah, I apologize for not having that information. I just, I'd have to find it there in the minutes, or in the terms of reference.
Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I recall when the terms of reference came before council within the last year, so since I've been on council, and one of the issues that they were having at the time was in membership, they were actually having people, they were having trouble getting quorum, which is part of why they wanted to change the terms of reference. Given that information, if these folks are willing to serve, and I know all three of those folks, I think they would represent well, I'm happy to support their renomination to that committee.
Thank you, Councillor. I see no further questions. So we've heard about the membership for accessibility, and now we want to vote. So all those in favor of the motion say aye. Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Now we're moving on to the request for decision code of conduct. Mr. Dolter, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So in January 2022, the Code of Conduct Working Group was established by the provincial government to develop a set of recommendations on the Code of Conduct framework for municipalities, which included content to included in the code, sanctions that may be imposed if a breach occurred, and options for an investigator model. Following significant consultation with municipalities in September 2022, March 23, and September 23 on the Code of Conduct framework, the Code of Conduct Working Group developed 25 recommendations. All 25 recommendations were adopted. The Code of Conduct framework came into effect following the October 2024 municipal election. The legislation provisions requires municipalities and villages to adopt a code of conduct consisting excuse me, of the model code of conduct 60 days following the October election and provide confirmation of their notice of adoption. So that would make the due date to be 18th of December 2024. The framework of the code is provided for council's review. And we are currently working with the County of Colchester to identify investigator options for the town, county, and the village. So again, that's we will come back to council when that work is done. So, Madam Mayor, the proposed motion is be it resolved, the council adopt the Code of Conduct for elected officials for the town of Truro as presented.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dolter. I'm now looking for a motion. Okay, Councillor McGrath, seconded by Councillor Graham. Any discussion on the motion for the Code of Conduct? Councillor Graham.
I completely support our participation and passing of this motion. I was just wondering for some clarity regarding the investigator options that you're exploring. I believe that's going to put us into a financial obligation. So we're agreeing to the Code of Conduct without really knowing the financial implications of hiring this investigator.
You're correct. The issue is the province has said we will adopt it before the 18th of December. The problem is prior to that we talked to the county fairly early on the options to see what they're doing, because it doesn't make sense for all three units to have, and Stewiacke included as well, to have separate investigators, because again the volume of work and the cost and the retention fees would be an issue. So we're going to have to look at those, and there's certain qualifications that are required. It's not that anybody can do it. They have to have investigation experience, some level of legal background, judicial knowledge. So again, it does narrow the field. So we will be coming back, and again, it does depend on what we're able to work out with a particular individual if they're interested on how the remuneration is going to work. So there's still some things that are up in the air. However, with the code in place, there should still be some time to have an investigator put in place. And if something happens prior to that being set, then we will do what we need to do to have an investigation done. So yeah, so you're right. The actual cost is open, but that's one of the things that the CEOs will be determined and have to come back to the individual councils for acceptance on whatever model we can come up with.
I'm certainly not an HR specialist, but that seems like a highly diverse set of skills that you'll be looking for. Mm-hmm. If we're unable to secure someone to fill that position, are we in violation of our obligations to adopt the code?
No, I don't believe we are. It's just that we'll have to do a one-off investigator. We'll have to, no different than when we have, an arbitration or conciliation situation, we have to select from a pool of people. There are people that are out there to do it, but
Okay.
it's better to have somebody identified. But again, if we were required, we could react as required. It's just that it wouldn't be a designated person that would do all the investigations. It would be a one-off, which is not desirable.
No. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Talbot.
Yeah, I do have a concern, and it's shared by a number of people across the province. I had a number of conversations at the NSFM. This actual document was supposed to be on for discussion. It was taken off without notice, and I'm not exactly sure why. But the concern is there's no appeal mechanism built into this process. And it's a committee of one who decides whether or not the complaint gets investigated. And my concern was, once you're accused of one of these serious things, and if it's not evident, I mean, if I was to be disrespectful to the mayor and went before the thing, that's pretty clear cut. You can't do that. But there might be other things that would not be as clear cut, and there's no appeal mechanism. And I just think that's dangerous. And don't know if anyone else shares that opinion at this table, but it is shared somewhat across the province. And Mike, at this point, I don't even know if there's anything we can do about it, because the consultation was more like a presentation. It wasn't a consultation.
I don't disagree with you, Councillor, and it's interesting because one of the recommendations that was made by the Association of Municipal Administrators, and I think also considered by NSFM, that there would be one investigator for the province. So there was consistency of approach across the province. And that's something that the province was not prepared to take on from a financial perspective. But you are correct as well too. I mean, basically this has been put into legislation, and the province is requiring it to be signed off 60 days after the election. So I think we'd be in violation if we do not do not pass it today. But your concerns are noted, and I think that's something that should be coming back through the councils, through an SFM, that there should be an amendment to the legislation that would allow for an appeal, because you're right, it is not well laid out within the current framework.
Councillor Thomas.
Yeah, I support Councillor Talbot's comments fully. I'm also, I'm just wondering, has the town councillor solicitor had an opportunity to read through this, or were you asked to read through this on our behalf?
Where is he on there? Where is he on that? Put that mic. Put there. There he is. Yeah, take him in.
There we go. Yes, I've had an opportunity to review it and also the regulations that bring it forward. I haven't done a deep dive into the code itself because, frankly, it doesn't really matter what I think, or honestly anybody around this table. The province has mandated that it must be passed by December the 19th. So there's not really any options available at this stage. The process for the investigations, I've taken a look at that as well, and there is a threshold level. When a complaint is made, the investigator is to take a look at it and decide if it has merit. And if they think it doesn't have any merit, then they can dismiss it basically out of hand. If they decide that it does have merit, then they do the investigation. They make their findings. Ultimately, it's council's decision as to whether they accept the recommendations of the investigator, and it's up to council to decide whether or not a councillor has violated the code of conduct, and then, if so, to decide on the sanctions. It's not an appeal process, but there are, I guess, some safeguards in that it's not entirely in the hands of the investigator to determine whether there's been a breach of the code and the sanction. Both of those things are ultimately up to council to decide.
Right, well, I would prefer there be a tribunal in regards to deciding whether the code is being broken. I don't think one person should have that responsibility. And just a couple of things that concern me, under gifts and benefits, for instance, it's not clear that as a councillor rerunning for office, that if someone gave me, because of my performance, and they like my performance, they decide to give me $1,000 towards my campaign, that is not spelled out in this, that is not an offense. It's not clear. You just read through it, it's not clear. It's also not clear. It says 18.2, for instance. If we look under 18.2, it talks about council and the CAO. And just off the back of just from my head, because I don't have time to look it up here, but it has to do with giving direction to the CAO. For instance, if I can't call the CAO up, according to this, and say, listen, there's something wrong with the sidewalk on Dominion Street, and I was just wondering, could that be, there's a lip on the sidewalk there, could that just be kind of ground down to remove that lip? And it says that you can't give direction to the CAO, that you can only give direction that council has given direction to. And so you can understand, at least I can understand, why you'd want to have a rule like that, but, that's a very strict rule, and it's all the time we violate that rule if you want to go to the letter of it. So I don't think the document's that good, and I'm not going to support it. Does it matter if I support it or not? Probably not, because His Majesty in Halifax has said so. So we'll leave it at that, right?
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Much like others around the table, I mean, it's unfortunate that this is mandated to us. My question is more about, because I understand that the province wanted something that was applicable across the board throughout the entire province. You didn't have a sort of a jigsaw puzzle of, well, it's like this way in this municipality and this way in another municipality. They wanted something that was broadly based, and then every municipality is treated the same way. My question is more about, is there an ability, given that requirement, is there an ability for us to make any changes to either, I assume we can't make it laxer, but we could perhaps make it more stringent to address some of the concerns such as Deputy Mayor Thomas has raised?
My understanding is no. I don't think you can amend this document because it's a legislative document.
Okay, so any amendments would have to come through the province or NSFM, and it would be broadly applied across the entire province.
There have to be an amendment made, and which the government would support.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Graham.
I guess my opening comments saying that I was supportive of the code of conduct, I am very in favor of there being a code of conduct. In light of my colleagues' comments, maybe this isn't the code of conduct that I had hoped it might be. I'm wondering, through you, Mayor, to our solicitor, what would be the consequences of us not passing it today?
The town would be in violation of the Municipal Government Act. You'd be breaking the law. I don't know what the province would do with that, but it is mandated in the legislation that all municipalities must adopt this code of conduct by December the 19th.
Well, that kind of says it, doesn't it all? So I think our options are pretty limited here, and I also share the concerns of what's involved in this code of conduct. Councillor Talbot.
Yeah, and I don't want to paint this as a bad document. It was needed. I fought for it for 5 years, and probably 98% of it is excellent. Like Councillor or Deputy Mayor now, the points he made were very valid. I think the point that I was made was brought to my attention by colleagues across the province. I think that is too, because I've seen people go through this type of process, be vindicated, but the public say, well, they get off on a technicality, so the damage has been done. But again, I agree with our solicitor. We have no choice but to approve it and then maybe fight for amendments going forward. I don't see any other option.
Yes, I agree. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Thomas.
Yeah, I think if you had a tribunal rather than one person reviewing the complaint, that would go a long way, because then you'd have, some thought put into it, and then you wouldn't be at the, I just feel as though it's not, and the counselor, the solicitor might want to comment on this, but it's not specific enough to handle every situation, and therefore I think that what a tribunal reviewing an offense would be a far better way of applying any discipline in this regard, because then you'd have multiple people thinking about it rather than just one. So.
Thank you very much. So we've heard the comments and questions. I think I'm the one who needs the Christmas miracle with this vote, but we're going to ask it. All those in favor of approving the code of conduct, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Nay. Okay, 2 nays. It is passed. Motion is passed. Thank you, Council.
Madam Mayor, what I suggest is that there is a requirement for us to provide notification to the province that it's been adopted. What we can do is, under your signature, we can let them know that we've adopted it, but I think raise the issues that have been brought up by council during the discussion, and let them know where there is concern about the process and what's been missing from the legislation, and ask them for consideration of that, those amendments to be brought forward.
Thank you. I think that's excellent, Mr. Doltar. I look forward to that, having you do that, so thank you very much. Next, Council, is our request for decision to amendments to the Public Council meeting agenda template. Mr. Doltar.
Thank you, Madam Deputy. I think Council's aware there's a number, I
Old habit.
didn't mean to downgrade you. There's old habits, Madam Mayor. So I think Council's aware. We do run a standard template for our council meetings, which do include a number of items which in very rare occasions do they come up. And those would be, I guess, particularly motions, notice of motions, the municipal grant requests, approval of accounts. Those are 3 items that very rarely, if ever, although municipal grants requests do come up every now and then. However, I would argue that that is probably something could be included in new business and doesn't have to have its own category on the agenda. Also, motions of reconsideration, that's a standing item, and it's something that would be put on the agenda if it was required. So again, it doesn't necessarily need to be part of the standing agenda. Again, and council can discuss that, whether or not they agree, but that would, now, do any of those items take a long time during the meeting? No, because I just simply say, no, we have nothing today. But again, it would tidy up the agenda overall. The other items, typically petitions, delegations, we do often have those. Old business does come up in camera, is required in legislation to report on that. The other item, I guess, is questions by members, whether or not that is still required, because that does take some time, but I do understand that council may feel that's a necessary item on there. And then I think Councillor Fleming as well too brought up the committee chairs reports. Now, we may find a different way to do that than the public agenda. I would probably suggest that's something that is an information item for committee of the whole, and maybe better served there as opposed to the public agenda. And then we may be able to just simply post the minutes of the various committees and share those online as well too. So that also would be an alternative. So again, I guess I've kind of rambled a bit there, but we're just looking for council's consideration. So I guess what we're proposing, or what I was considering when I was asked to take a look at it, is item 12 be eliminated, item 11 be eliminated, and 9 be eliminated except as required. And motions and notice of motions would also be required unless otherwise added to the agenda. And those are the items, Madam Mayor, that I think probably can come off an amended list. And again, I don't know if they'd save time, but they'd certainly make
Streamline.
make it look a little bit shorter. And then I guess council needs to decide what they want to do about questions by members, and whether or not there's a requirement for that, because a lot of that discussion does take place between the committee reports, but do recognize there may be some things that fall outside of purely committee or departmental issues.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dolter. So before we get into our discussion, I need a motion, please. Calling for a motion, Councillor Graham, seconded by Councillor McGrath. Okay, so now let's start our discussion, and we're up first with Councillor Talbot.
Yeah, I would argue that questions by members absolutely should be removed. All the questions are either addressed to the CAO or to one of the directors, and we have opportunity to ask those questions while they're making the reports. Even if the question we have doesn't hit the topic that they're talking about, we have that opportunity. So I see that one as completely redundant, and I support moving the other two.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Graham.
I have two questions to follow up on Councillor Talbot. Is there a definition of what the purpose as defined is for number 8, questions by members? Is that defined somewhere?
Typically, those would be items that would fall outside of departmental responsibility, usually if they wouldn't come up during the committee reports. And again, they're called committee reports, but they should be departmental reports. That's the other thing. That title is not correct. It should be departmental reports. So it would be things that fell outside of those items. So it could be, again, I'm trying to think of an item that wouldn't involve a particular department or myself the council would ask about, but there may be some items that would fall outside of an operational type issue, I guess, right?
Well, if it's left, I think that there needs to be clear definition as to the purpose of what that is. And that can be a discussion for another time,
Well,
if we don't remove it.
Yeah, I guess I think it's deliberately left open-ended because again, we can't, it's questions by members, it's really questions by councillors. And again, it's hard to narrow it down because we can't anticipate what somebody may or may not want to ask if they feel it's applicable for the public agenda.
So it's like, in terms of defining it, it's questions, it's not reports.
Correct.
Okay.
That is the thing, and it is true, and I think Councillor Talbot said it, it's not usually questions, it's statements. So again, but it's at the end of the day, it's council's agenda. So if you want a place to be able to make announcements or whatever, that could be something. We eliminate that and add something else. It may have the same effect, but I guess it would probably define, because typically they're not questions by members, they're statement by members. So we could have at the end of the meeting, we may give an opportunity of council. I'll call it council announcements or whatever, if council wishes to do so. Right.
My second question. Have we formalized the use of Robert's rules for our meetings?
No, we use a looser version of Robert's rules. Again, and that's worked for this council, but again, it's Robert's can be confining at times as well too. So again, it's up to council whether or not they want to find the strict letter of the law on Roberts, and so we follow our version of it. I'll put it that way.
Is our version defined somewhere?
No. We're loosely following Robert's Rules of Order, and we are following proper process for notices. For motions, seconding, discussion. And so for that process we're following. And I'll give you a good example. You're not supposed to speak more than twice during a meeting. Right. Councillors commonly comment a number of times on the same issue. So if you want us to follow that, we certainly can. And actually wouldn't even mind that, to be bluntly honest. And it's supposed to be no more than, we say no more than 10 minutes, which if you get to speak twice, 20 minutes on one issue is a long time, but it does say within the bylaw, the council bylaw, that it is a discussion of 10 minutes. So again, on any one issue, any councillor could speak up to 20 minutes. I don't think we've ever had that happen, but again, you know, we do violate the speaking twice on quite a few occasions. So again, at the end of the day, I guess the answer to your question is, council needs to decide how strictly they want to follow those guidance. And Roberts is guidance. It's not, you know, it's Roberts Rules of Order, but it's not. It's parliamentary procedure. Again, we can strictly follow them, but again, I think we follow all the areas of Roberts that's required in order to have a good, tight meeting, and that's what Roberts is meant about, to have a good, productive meeting and to be respectful and to follow a consistent process, which we do.
Well, I'm not sure that this is the appropriate time or place, but I would like to have that broader discussion with council to decide together as a group what we would like moving forward.
And we can do that. We can do that at committee of the whole meeting if you want to do that, and then you can give general guidance to council, not a decision, but you can give guidance to staff on where you want to go.
Councillor Fleming?
Thank you, Mayor Hinton. Just in regards to number 8, questions by members, I think we should, in my opinion, we should keep it there, but call it comments by councillors or something like that. And it has nothing to do with the department head reports. It's something for, like, I know you quite often previously would, the mayor I'm speaking to, would comment on things going on in Ward 3 that had nothing to do with the reports or whatever. And I think it gives us an opportunity to let people know what's going on, our upcoming events in our wards and that type of thing. So I'd like to see it stay.
Thank you. Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm in agreement that we should have some sort of forum there, and maybe it would be called open forum, that we would have somewhere for councillors to talk about things that are happening in the town, things of that nature. I also just want to know how we're approaching this. Are we doing multiple motions? Because many suggestions have been proposed here. I think if we try to lump them all into one motion, it could get quite confusing about who supports which additions, deletions, or modifications. Would we do this on a one-by-one? Is there a motion even required to update the agenda, or is this just looking for more a show of hands of support on what changes we want to see? Like, for example, the committee reports, Mr. Dolter's 100% correct. That should be departmental reports, and I would have no problem with that change. But if I say disagreed with the questions by members being removed, it gets a bit tricky if we're trying to get one motion for everybody. Like, how are we approaching this? That might be a question for you, Mr. Dolter.
Well, again, you're right. It's difficult to go down through a consensus on. Some wanted added, some wanted deleted. I guess I'm trying to think of the best approach here. Again, the easy thing is to leave it as it is, and we quickly go through the items. We make some quick amendments. We take out the obvious one, which is the accounts, because that's completely redundant. And the grant request, because again, I don't know why that's a separate item.
We just do a show of hands. So, I think everybody supports the removal of municipal grant requests and accounts, because again, the accounts is not required.
Yeah.
Accounts are getting paid whether or not council says so.
Yeah. So to move this along, Madam Mayor, could I propose that what I'm proposing to amend at this point, and there can be further discussion on the other items, is to remove unless required items 3, 9, 11, and 12. And then and then we can, and I will retitle committee reports to departmental reports. And then we'll leave, and I will amend questions by members to comments by council.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Thomas?
Yeah, I agree with that. Could you just explain motions of reconsideration, please?
So those are items, motions of reconsideration, we talked about Robert's rules, typically would take place at the end of a council meeting. So council's made a decision, towards the end of the meeting, a council member makes a motion of reconsideration. In other words, you've made a decision, and as a result, during the meeting, you feel that there may be a reason to revisit that and re-vote on it. So what it would do, it would come back to the next meeting for a motion of reconsideration, and you vote on it without discussing the matter further. So you get a chance to re-vote. It has to be proposed before the end of the meeting. If it is not, then the decision of council is final.
So why would we hamstring ourselves by removing that as an option?
No, because you still have the ability to, because there's no reason for it to be a standing item, because
Sure,
it's something you would raise
Okay.
as a result of a meeting. It's not something that it's not a standing item on the agenda. It's something that comes up as a result of the meeting and a councillor feeling there's a requirement to reconsider an item.
Right, and when, number 3, motions and notice of motion. So if I came to council and wanted to propose a motion for council to consider, when would I do that?
That would be part of you add an item to the agenda.
Okay, thank you for that.
And and the thing is, councillor, you can also, and a good example is, I guess, comments by council. If during or even during the discussion, if there's an item that a councillor has an issue with, they can always, I'd like to propose a motion that, staff write a report to whatever that might be. And you can do that at any time during the meeting.
Okay, so I agree with what's been stated then by you, CAO, as to what you're recommending we vote on. One thing though, I don't think we should remove the questions by members. I have questions that involve things outside. Maybe it's something that happened in the county, regarding the county, or something national, RCMP issues, provincial issues, I think that should be there. And not only that, but also because maybe I'm not the swiftest person, sometimes things pop into my head after after the committee members report, and I'd like an opportunity to ask that question then. So I think I think it's necessary for that to stay there, and I don't mind it. The committee report name be changed to director's reports. That would be fine by me.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Talbot?
Yeah, one quick comment, and I apologize to my fellow councillors and the mayor up front. I don't mean to be preachy, but we went to the NSFN, paid lots of money, and we were exposed to lots of good people. A parliamentarian, Craig Pollitt, and he went over in some great detail the role of the council responsible, and the two things that struck me was focus of council is governance, not operational matters, and focus of council is on results, outputs and outcomes. And we do spend a lot of time talking about operational issues. So.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Okay, Mr. Dolter, we're going to make the motion on items 3, 9, 11, and 12, leaving questions by members at this point in time. So do you want to bring that motion forward and read it, please?
And I'll just do it in this way. Be resolved, the council approve the agreed upon amendments to the town public council meeting agenda template, and that I'll just for repeat is to, and these items are added as required, motions and notice of motions, the motions for reconsideration, municipal grant requests, and payment of accounts, and that again we will rename the committee reports to departmental reports.
Thank you, Mr. Dolter. You've heard the motion, Council. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you. Now we're moving on to our new item, item G, for the request for advance payment for the rec for quarterly grant. Mr. Dolter?
So Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the society, which is the Rec Society, has requested that an early advance of the final quarter of the operating grant be approved to deal with some of the issues they're having with cash flow as a result of the deficit from the 23-24 fiscal year that was brought forward in the recent AGM by the Rec. So the request, so typically that payment would be made at the end of December, beginning of January. The quarterly payment is a total of $187,500, which represents this year's approved grant of $750,000. So that would be what they're requesting to be paid early. This is probably the second occasion that I'm aware of that we would be advancing, or actually third, to be honest. We did advance the previous quarter as well. I did that myself because it's part of the budget approved, and the timing really isn't approved by council, so thought it was reasonable. But given that this is the second request, I feel it's I need council's approval to do this. Obviously, the Rec is going through a bit of a transition with some issues that are ongoing. I would recommend that if council were to approve the motion to release this money early, that obviously we express some of our concerns to the Rec Board on their cash flow situation and ask for a report on the new year on what they're doing to address the situation.
Thank you, Mr. Dolder. I now call for a motion. Councillor McGrath, a seconder, please. Seconder on the motion. Councillor Fleming, thank you very much. Now the discussion. Councillor Graham.
It was my understanding that the Rec has hired a more financially experienced person to oversee these accounts, specifically with the goal of not finding ourselves in these types of positions again. Has the board been able to provide oversight to that position?
There's been, they have. There's been some ongoing issues, particularly with the Nova Scotia Stampede, in combination with the costs related to that. There's also been some other issues that have been outside of the board's control that have impacted on their overall cash situation at the moment. There's a number of grants and that they're waiting on or have been delayed. Typically payments that they would have in hand that they did anticipate but did not come through. Again, I'm not going to say the situation is perfect at this point, but I believe for the most part they are on top of it. They are trying to address a couple of situations that should resolve themselves in the new year, but I think council should get those assurances that those situations are going to resolve themselves.
So 187,000, was that about the number?
That with 187,500, that is the quarterly payment.
Yeah.
The total amount approved for this year for the grant is 750,000. So that's
So
that.
how early are we giving it? Can you
It's
remind
1 month basically. It would have been payable at the end of December regardless.
So I know it wouldn't be a huge number, but we'll be losing the interest potentially earned on keeping that in our account, which is probably 1 or 2%, but it's still a loss of revenue for us to give that at this time. I wonder, would we consider reducing the amount by that interest we would have earned? Does that make sense?
To be totally honest, I don't really think that. I don't think either, again, with the vested interest that the town has in the success of the Rec, I think for a small amount of interest, not necessarily small, I don't have the figure on the top of my head, but again, I think either we agree that they require the payment or they don't. I don't think the adjustment would be justified. It would. I think at the end of the day, it would. If I can be so blunt, it would seem fairly petty. Either we owe it, we're going to pay it to them, or we're not.
I get it. It's just that it's the second time now that it's happened, so cumulatively it might be starting to add up. But I don't disagree that it would be a bit petty, but but I just feel it should be noted.
Yeah, again, I think if council agrees to advance, I think it does have to go with a corresponding letter with the concerns about cash flow and the fact that we do recognize that there have been some issues ongoing, but we need to see that it's being handled correctly by the rec board and the administration of the rec.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McGrath?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm in full agreement that we should fund it this time and that there needs to be some sort of oversight. I'm just torn on whether or not we want them to spend the extra time on providing that report, or if we just become a little bit more iron-fisted and say, this is the last time, get your house in order and you'll get the quarterly payments on the regular date. Because it is a concern, is this a slope that, that slippery slope where we're paying them earlier, and now we're, do we become an entire quarter ahead at some point? But I also don't necessarily want to have them spend a lot of time and perhaps money reporting back to us, which might even exacerbate the problem.
Thank you very much. No further questions. Council, you've heard the motion. We've had a seconder, and you've heard the discussion. All those in favor of providing the quarterly payment grant to the rec, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried. Municipal grant requests. Do we have any, Mr. Dolter?
I should say yes, just for,
Yes.
no, we do not.
I think I'd fall over if you said yes. Now we're looking for a motion to pay our accounts. Motion, Councillor McGrath, seconder? Seconder. Councillor Fleming, thank you very much. All those in favor of paying the accounts, please say aye. Contrary minded? I want to thank council, staff, our CAO, our solicitor, who was going to do double duty today if we had any further nominations, and those watching on Eastlink or online, and those behind the scenes who are all a valuable part of our team. Congratulations to our new Deputy Mayor, Thomas. This is a very special time of year where family and friends gather to celebrate the magic of the season. For many, however, it can be a time of struggles with health, finances, illness, loneliness, or missing someone from their life. It's important, if we can, to all reach out to those who may need support. On behalf of our Truro Town Council and the staff, our most sincere wishes for a healthy and happy Christmas and holiday season. We look forward to being with you again in the new year on January 6th for our public council meeting. I declare the Truro Town Council meeting for December 2nd, 2024 adjourned. Thank you and happy holidays, everyone.